Can cybercrime be an art form? Come along as we delve into how a former member of the Turkish armed forces manipulated his skill to organize the theft of over tens of millions of dollars stolen by something most of us use almost daily. In this real-life crime thriller, we will see a mastermind and his co-conspirators carry out cyber attacks on the global financial system, wreaking economic havoc along the way. Stick around to the end to find out the real-life fate of these operatives. In our previous video, we learned about a bloke from Australia who became a millionaire by accidentally finding a glitch in the system, resulting in the thefts of totaling around 1.7 million. Our guy in this video created glitches in the system, many of them resulting in thefts amounting to over a measly $55 million. Becoming millionaires by illegal means isn't the only commonality between the two, but you'll get to that part soon. Ercan Findikoglu grew up in Turkey, where, according to Al Arabian News, as a youngster he found refuge from an abusive father and sickly mother by spending time in a safe haven of the cyber cafes. Let's talk about these cyber cafes for a moment. Based on his age of 35, the time period would have been in the early 90s. In those days, you dial up internet, and not every household was fortunate to have this luxury. If you were one of those unfortunate ones, you went to a place like a library, for example, to get access to the internet. For a fee, of course. How could a child afford this? Consider this. Perhaps the finance gaining scheme started when he was a youngster. Could this be where it all began? Maybe so, but it would only gain traction as he would later hone in on his skills for the Turkish military. Learning skills that could be later used for illegal purposes on the government's dime? There's just no way. But what did he do that's so bad? Well, you see, Ercan went by several different aliases, like Seagate and Predator. Somehow we don't believe the moniker was inspired by Schwarzenegger's 1987 flick. More so, perhaps it's from the Merriam-Webster's definition of predator, which is one who injures or exploits others for personal gain or profit. From this point on, I'll be referring to Ercan Findikoglu as the Predator. It'll be much cooler and easier for the simple American to say Predator versus Ercan Findikoglu over and over again. The Washington Times reports that the Predator began orchestrating his cybercrime ring in 2010. As leader, he led a band of cyber thugs who would siphon off tens of millions of dollars from automated teller machines in 24 countries by targeting prepaid debit and card payment processors. Yep. That's the other thing he and Dan Saunders from Australia, covered in our previous video, had in common: stealing by way of ATM machines. Somehow, these quiet, relatively upstanding citizens were able to become instant millionaires. Like, how is this possible? I can't recall a time when I could insert my card and withdraw money that I didn't have, let alone go over the limited daily amount implemented by the financial institutions. Can you? Have you ever had such luck? How would you react if you did? Would you report it and return the money? Would you take the money and run? Or would you try it again? I want to know your thoughts. Let me know in the comments. As mentioned earlier, our previous story about Dan started off as an unwitting crime, a case of happenstance. True, he kept at it, but the point is, had it not been for the bank's glitch, maybe he would have never become a criminal in the first place. Well, we all have the forbidden fruit that tempts us, so in any case, the Predator's wasn't so unwitting. It was the complete opposite of happenstance. It was deliberate. He manipulated these events, forcing them to occur. Are you ready? The U.S. Attorney's Office stated in their case against the Predator that between 2011 and 2013, he and his gang caused more than $55 million in losses. In layman's terms, this is what they say he was responsible for. You have to pay close attention because it can get convoluted, but we're going to try to make it as plain as possible. Here we go. Basically, they broke into credit and debit card processing companies, stole data for prepaid debit cards, and removed the withdrawal limits for these cards. After they obtained the information, the Predator and his band of thugs, aka cashers, took control of network administrators' accounts at the payment processing companies and lifted the PIN numbers of compromised debit cards before handing this information over to mules and cyber criminals. The processing companies included Fidelity National Information Services Inc., Electra Card Services, now owned by MasterCard, and Enstage. They then used the credit and debit cards to make fraudulent cash withdrawals at ATMs worldwide. So you know how there are cash withdrawal limits placed on transactions at ATMs. Well, the predator removed those limits, virtually enabling cash withdrawals for any amount they wanted. As a result of the effective elimination of withdrawal limits, these cyber attacks were known as unlimited operations. Per CBS News, the predator controlled and monitored all of this from Turkey, but his gang members, as seen on surveillance cameras, went to work hitting machines from Tokyo to London to New York. Secret Service agent Ken Primo stated they emptied the ATMs with just one card. He also said that the predator was watching all of this so that he could tell who was withdrawing how much so that he'd know how much money he was supposed to get back. There were 3 sting operations spread out over the course of 2 years, with each one taking 2 days to pull off. The first one occurred February 27th through the 28th, 2011. The cashers withdrew approximately $10 million through roughly 15,000 fraudulent ATM withdrawals in 18 countries. The second was December 21st through the 22nd, 2012. The cashers made approximately 5,000 transactions in 20 countries, withdrawing $5 million. For these 2 heists, they targeted cards issued by JP Morgan Chase & Company and the National Bank of Ras Al Khaimah in United Arab Emirates. The press release office of the Eastern District of the New York U.S. Attorney's Office stated that during this second operation, wait. You have to make sure you're sticking with me here. This is pretty big. In New York alone, cashers conducted more than 700 fraudulent ATM withdrawals, totaling nearly $400,000 in losses at more than 140 different ATM locations over the course of just 2.5 hours. Again, 2.5 hours in New York alone. Wow. The third, which was their largest one yet, and apparently their last, occurred on February 19th and 20th, 2013. In a little over 10 hours, cashers made some 36,000 transactions in 24 countries for a take of $40 million in cash. During this third operation, again in New York alone, cashers conducted nearly 3,000 fraudulent ATM withdrawals, totaling approximately $2.4 million in losses, roughly over the course of 10 hours. The cards targeted for this heist were cards issued by Bank Muscat in Oman. The operation was so sophisticated that by round 3, the predator had figured out which ATMs carried the most cash and instructed his teams to hit those first. The reason why New York was hit so often and so hard, you may ask? Well, Secret Service agent Scott Sarafian says millions were taken from ATMs in New York City alone, and like any well-organized plan, they had it mapped out. And they knew that Broadway had a large number of ATMs in close proximity to each other. That's why they would send most of the money back to him via wire transfers and deliveries to co-conspirators in Turkey, Romania, and Ukraine. All of this was uncovered by extraordinary efforts of the Secret Service in investigating complex network intrusions. According to Al Arabia News, the Secret Service investigates financial crimes committed by international hackers, many Russian-speaking. You don't say. The FBI goes after state-sponsored hackers in counterintelligence cases and has faced similar difficulties putting foreigners behind bars. An investigation commenced, but how did they get caught in the first place? They started doing what most people do that gets them caught, of course, by becoming show-offs, flashing cash and expensive watches. CBS also reports that their end came at a mob movie staple, a New York diner where police arrested one gang member carrying almost $1 million. Who goes to a diner carrying $1 million? Bruh. Also, don't forget that one thing all ATMs have. Smile, you're on candid camera. Okay, they got found out, so what happened next? Well, we'll get to that in a moment. There's a tad more work experience to add to the Predator's resume for hackers. BankInfoSecurity.com reports that his masterminding of ATM cash-out attacks actually go back to 2008, the year he was added as number 2 on the FBI's Cyber Most Wanted list. That's right, he was wanted by the US Secret Service for 5 years. One more thing before you learn what happened next. Let's talk about this cyber stuff for a moment, specifically cyber crimes. While we could dive really deep into this, like dark web deep, how about a quick high-level overview? As explained by TechTarget.com, a cybercrime is any criminal activity that involves a computer, network device, or a network. and there are multiple ways cybercrimes can be committed. Most cybercrimes are carried out in order to generate a profit for the cybercriminals, and some are carried out against computers or devices directly to damage or disable them. Others use computers or networks to spread malware, illegal information, images, or other materials. That's why if you receive an email from an unknown sender, you should never open an attachment or click on a link. A primary effect of cybercrime is financial. Cybercrime can include many different types of profit-driven criminal activity, including ransomware attacks, email and internet frauds, and identity fraud. It includes attempts to steal financial accounts, credit cards, or other payment information. How many of you have had your credit or debit cards compromised? And what about the predator? Doesn't all of this sound a tiny bit familiar? At this point, you know that he was exposed, and we just did a quick overview on cybercrimes. Now let's see how all of that ties together for the predator and relay the actual events leading to his takedown. He knew he was being investigated, which is why he told one of his cashers in a text message to not go to USA, you will get arrested. That was a quote, by the way. He thought that if he were to go down, that's where it would happen. Well, boy was he wrong. In 2013, the government unsealed a 4-count federal indictment against 8 New York-based members of the alleged cybercrime gang. In December 2013, he took a trip to Frankfurt, Germany, where he was arrested at the request of the U.S. authorities. The arm of the law sure is long. Retired special agent in charge of the Secret Service's New York field office stated that foreign hackers know their safe havens, and some are more challenging to get to. Inevitably, they make a mistake. The predator wasn't safe at home either, because while he was committing those cyber attacks, he was facing Turkish charges since he conspired to produce fake debit and credit cards. In that case, the predator was convicted in 2012 and sentenced to 19.5 years in prison. It was while he was out on bail that he was arrested in 2013 in Germany. Oof, the fall happens fast. Obviously, the predator tried to fight his extradition to the States, but almost a year later, in November 2014, Germany's Supreme Court ruled that the lower court made a huge mistake by failing to receive assurances from the United States that the predator wouldn't receive a disproportionate sentence. Under Germany's property-related crime laws, under which the predator was being held, he would have received a maximum sentence of 15 years, whereas he faced up to 247.5 years in the United States, if convicted of all the charges filed against him, German court documents revealed. Yeah, that feels pretty doggone disproportionate. Well, if you've been paying close attention at this point, you've caught the fact that this guy was facing decades left and right. The predator was eventually extradited to the US on June 23, 2015. On March 1, 2016, he pleaded guilty to computer intrusion conspiracy, access device fraud conspiracy, and effecting transactions with unauthorized access to devices. For this plea, he was facing 57 years in prison. However, dude caught a break and only was sentenced to 8 years on February 10, 2017. I know I said only. You'd also say only too if you got hit with an 8-year bid instead of 57. That's not where the story will end for the predator though. After he completes his sentence in the US, the plan is to extradite him to Turkey to serve his 19.5-year sentence. Oh, one more thing. As part of his sentence, the US court ordered that he pays $55,080,226.14 in restitution. Yeah, we ain't getting that money. As a matter of fact, most of the money stolen had not been recovered. Some of those cashers are probably living it up on some remote island. As we draw the curtains on this episode, let us remember that the digital world is a battlefield with cyber crimes occurring relentlessly. Even the mightiest of governments and corporations aren't invincible, but they are constantly evolving their defenses to outsmart these digital predators. In the heart of this complex human saga, we find Ercan Findikoglu. Is he a misunderstood prodigy, shaped by a harsh upbringing who inadvertently revealed the gaping flaws in our global banking system? Or is he just a morally bankrupt mastermind with an unparalleled knack for cyber deception? Whichever side you take, interact with us in the comments. Ercan's story is a testament to the power of intellect, albeit misused. Perhaps as his narrative continues to unfold, it won't be a chronicle of squandered brilliance. Well, the next time we get upset when our bank stops a card for suspicious activity, maybe we should be thankful for not being out of thousands of dollars we might not have just laying around to spare in the first place. Hope you enjoyed learning about the hacker who stole $55 million from ATMs. Don't forget to react to this video and share your thoughts with us. We'd love to see them. Until next time.